batch. He holds a master's degree in psychology from Delhi University, a degree in business management from IIM Calcutta, and a master's in public management from National University of Singapore. He has also done short courses from London School of Economics, Kennedy School of Government, and Harvard University. He was awarded the World Bank's Social Capital Visiting Scholarship in 2002 and the British government's Gurukul Chevening Scholarship in 2005. He has done international consultancy assignments for the World Bank and UNESCO. He is the All India topper of his IS batch of 1992. Currently, Shri Jayesh Ranjan is the Vice Chairman and Managing Director of the Andhra Pradesh Industrial Infrastructure Corporation, which works towards identifying industrial development opportunities in the state, attracting investments, and providing the required infrastructure support to the industrial units. He also supports many social, cultural, and charitable causes like the Save a Child's Heart Such Foundation, Young Lives India, Usha Lakshmi Breast Cancer Foundation, etc. Now I request Sir to give his address.
Respected Chief Guest for the function, respected guests of honor, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It's a matter of great honor to be invited here today and to share my views on the theme of today's conference. Since this conference is happening in Hyderabad, it will be quite appropriate if I very briefly share about this state's experiences with PPP projects. Andhra Pradesh is a pioneer state in the area of public-private partnership. In fact, the state has a large number of showcase PPP projects. This state was one of the earlier embracers of this PPP concept. And in fact, the first PPP project took off way back in 1996. Many of you will be familiar with the iconic high-tech city building in Hyderabad area, which is in the first few PPP, which is listed as the first few PPP projects in the entire country. It was developed between the state government and L&T, and it is a project which supports IT infrastructure. Later on, the state has taken up a large number of PPP projects in a diverse range of sectors, from airports, ports, urban infrastructure, drinking water, tourism, healthcare, sports, to name a few. In fact, I have data till 2012, and the data shows that in terms of completed PPP projects, Andhra Pradesh ranks second in our country after Rajasthan. We have completed 38 PPP projects so far, and more than 41 projects are under implementation. Now, while there have been a number of extremely successful instances of PPP projects in the state, there are also a large number of concerns which we have experienced when we are implementing this project. Andhra Pradesh, for those who are not aware, is one of the earliest states which passed a legislation to promote PPP projects. And this is the Andhra Pradesh Infrastructure Development Enabling Act. It is called the IDEA Act, which was passed in 2002, which provides the framework on how the state government and the private players will collaborate together in delivering and in conceptualizing and delivering various projects. Thereafter, state government has also created various institutions to support PPP activities, including the Infrastructure Corporation of Andhra Pradesh and my own organization, the Andhra Pradesh Industrial Infrastructure Corporation, which together carry a host of PPP projects. We also have a PPP cell in the government, which is the nodal agency for scrutinizing various departments' PPP initiatives. And as a result of this piece of legislation and the institutions that have been made available in the state, we have been able to deliver a large number of very successful PPP projects. In fact, many of you would have come to Hyderabad using our airport in Shamshabad, which is again a very successful instance of a PPP project in the airport sector. We also have a few very successful ports in the PPP sector. The outer ring road in Hyderabad is again a very good exemplar of a large-scale infrastructure project which meets a very critical requirement of the city. And the Hyderabad Metro Rail project, which is presently going on, is again considered to be one of the largest projects in the entire world which has been taken up in the PP sector. We also have a number of examples in the social sector of successful implementation of PPP. Many of you must have heard about the ambulance services, the emergency medical response services, which are called 108 services, which is again a very good example of PPP, in which the responsibility of operating the fleet of ambulances and provide emergency medical care has been handed over to a private agency. There are similar good examples, successful examples in the tourism sector, in the sports sector, and so on and so forth. Despite a large number of such showcase projects, we have in the last 15 years or so also experienced many difficulties in implementing some of these PPP projects, and that kind of experience also kind of indicates what are the challenges which the government faces in handling PPP projects. First of all, despite 20 years of close to 20 years of experience in working with PPP projects, the capacities in the government to design, to conceptualize, to work with a private developer is still very limited. And we find the same kind of deficiency in the private service provider also. We find that in many cases, there is a scarcity in scarcity of experience in project delivery, and also in the long-term service delivery. We are also handicapped by lack of standard documentation. While the Planning Commission has come forward and designed what are called model concession agreements, etc., we still on occasions find that these documents are very difficult to grapple with, and they do not kind of provide with certain kinds of flexibilities which different kinds of projects need. We know that there are successful instances of PPP projects in other parts of country, in other parts of the world, but we do not really have access to that kind of database, and therefore dissemination of information and best practices is something which is again lacking. And I do hope that conferences like this will be able to provide this kind of database, this kind of an inventory of success stories and best practices. We also have lots of difficulties. We have seen cases when after the project has been announced, after the project has been awarded, the government has faced problems in terms of land acquisition, in terms of rehabilitation. In some of the road sector projects, we have faced problems in providing right of way. I gave the example of Outer Ring Road a while ago. While the Outer Ring Road has been developed very successfully so far, we still have challenges in roughly around 10% of the project where right of way has not yet been procured. There is also a difficulty which the private sector player faces in terms of managing financial closure. The long-term debt finance instruments for some of the long gestation projects are missing. Banks and financial institutions are not very forthcoming, and we do not have funds like risk capital funds, wherein long-term projects which have long gestation periods can be supported. And we also find that despite good experiences in various sectors, there is still ambiguity about what constitutes risk. How can that risk be shared equitably and fairly between the government agency and the private sector participant? We have seen a number of cases when after the project has been awarded, attempts have been made to modify some of the clauses, etc., which again gives rise to lots of suspicion. A few serious inquiries have also happened in this province, in which some of the PPP projects and the way their clauses have been modified later on have been questioned. But it is also a fact that there are compelling circumstances in which some projects do require some kind of review or relook at some of the conditions. In fact, I have advocated on a number of forums earlier also. While large number of people talk about the need to have regulators, I have made a strong case that just as we require regulators, we also require arbitrators, because there are many instances of government and the private agency running into some dispute about how the project should be restructured. I can give you a live example which I am facing right now in my organization. We had entered into a PPP contract with one of the largest business houses in our country to develop a central business district in the Hyderabad area. And this agency had also agreed that they will construct a 100-story tower, a business tower, which will be an iconic tower for the entire country. The project was awarded 6 years ago, but we have not been able to achieve any progress at all, because right from day one, prolonged negotiations about reviewing some clauses, in modifying some of the clauses, etc., are happening. It goes to some kind of judicial adjudication, we will not be able to find the way forward. So there is a strong need for a mechanism in which these kind of disputes are resolved amicably. So while these are the challenges which a government agency faces in implementing PPP projects, we also have very good experiences of successful handling of PPP projects, and these success stories also tell us what are the key factors behind the success of some of these projects. Now, in my opinion, one of the most important factor in successful projects is the way the project is offered in the market. We have seen that if everything is tied up, everything is all the permissions, all the clearances, land issues, environmental clearances, right of way, other levels of legal scrutiny, if everything is done beforehand and only afterwards when the project is brought into the market, the chances of it becoming inevitably successful are very, very high. And most of the projects run into difficulty because the government agencies show a great deal of impatience in handling all these nitty-gritties, securing land clearances, securing permissions, etc. And this is a strong recommendation which I make, that whenever a project has to be awarded or considered under PPP, please ensure that the groundwork has been completed. And when it is brought in the market, the readiness phase is very important rather than rushing into bidding, etc. We also need to set realistic expectations on what the private sector partner can deliver. We have a very classic example of how in Delhi, not in Hyderabad, in Delhi, how the airport metro line, despite being considered a very, very feasible project, has just not taken off because the expectations of from the private sector developer were set too high, and we just do not know how that project will be extricated from the dead end which it seems to have been run into. We have also seen in Andhra Pradesh that providing some kind of hand-holding services or escort services in the initial phases of the project is very important. When as the name indicates, the public-private partnership requires a genuine sense of partnership, in the sense that there is a stake of the government also in the success of the project. But my experience in working with various, I have worked in 3 critical departments in the government, wherein we have undertaken large number of PPP projects. In fact, of the 40-odd projects which the state government has been implementing, I have been involved in some sense. I was just taking stock the other day with 18 of the projects, and which includes the Outer Ring project, the Hyderabad Airport project, and as I mentioned, some of the other projects which are going on right now. I still get the sense that the concept of partnership has not really been internalized in the government sector. The government's mentality is still to suspect the private partner as someone who is out to make a fast buck, someone who is kind of trying to make windfall gains, and the idea is still to kind of keep an eye on them, try to check, try to curtail, try to find fault. Instead of that, if there is a genuine sense of partnership and government takes the responsibility of ensuring the success of the project by procuring various kind of clearances, sorting out all the difficulties, this can support, this can help the project, and that is possible if a dedicated escort facility is provided for hand-holding some of these projects in the initial sets. Similarly, we all know that government relies a lot on consultants in designing these projects, in doing the bidding, in also monitoring the project after the bidding is completed. We also notice that the space which the consultants occupy is very narrow. There are only a limited number of consultants with limited kind of expertise and skill set. So we need to provide some kind of capacity building in that sector also. While the government's internal capacities need to be built, but the capacities of the consultancy firms which support the government by and large, that also needs to be reviewed, and we need to kind of go ahead in that direction also. Finally, the transparency in selection process is also very, very important, the way this bid process is managed. In this state itself, there have been instances where the project selection, the proponent selection was not done transparently, and the government agencies later on faced serious inquiries and serious difficulties. But I'm very sure that the collective experience of not only in Andhra Pradesh, but various parts of the country, various parts of the world, will help us refine the way PPP projects are implemented. And as other speakers mentioned before me, PPP is the need of the hour, given the large infrastructure challenges we face in our country and the need to immediately boost our economic growth and economic development further. PPP is the answer, but we need to ensure that PPP projects are done with a real sense of partnership. Capacities of both sides are built, and there is a mechanism in which, through which all these difficult areas, unresolved areas are sorted out. If you are interested to look at some of the successful projects which have happened in Andhra Pradesh, here in Hyderabad, I'll be very happy to organize site visits for you and to organize one-to-one discussions with the agencies which are involved in the project. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your real-time and practical experiences and issues related to PPP. Now I take the privilege of introducing our chief guest, Ms. Kusumjit Sidhu, Secretary, Department of Public Enterprises, to the audience. Ms. Sidhu, a 1979 batch IAS officer of Punjab cadre, was earlier holding the charge as Additional Secretary and Financial Advisor in the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, and Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. She assumed charge after Mr. O.P. Rawat retired last December. Ms. Sidhu has a rich and